السلام عليكم دكتور طارق. إن شاء الله after 2 minutes we will start. وراح أقدمك وبعدين إن شاء الله تبدأ. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining ITAR online webinar. This is Dr. Ahmed Al-Gattan, the founder of ITAR Group. Thank you for joining today webinar from all over the world, and also a special thank for our guest speaker today, Dr. طارق المنتصر. Dr. Tariq has around 15 years of teaching and research experience in academic accounting programs at higher education institutions in the UK and internationally. He has previously held a lectureship post in accounting and finance at the College of Applied Administrative and Finance Science, CAAF, in Libya. The University of Reading, UK, De Montfort University in UK. And he is currently Associate Lecturer in Accounting and Finance Department at University of Coventry in UK. Tarek developed, reviewed, coordinated, lectured, tutored, assisted, and examined a wide range of courses in accounting areas. Dr. Tarek has been awarded his PhD from the University of Reading in December 2019. Most recently, Tarek has been awarded his fellowship in the Higher Education Academy, FHEA, in September 2020. He had attended and participated in many conferences and workshops in the UK and other countries where he presented many full papers. He is a member of the British Accounting and Finance Association, BAFA, and Corp Tax Alliance, based in Netherlands. He is continuing research interested in social and environment accounting, corporate sustainability, and SDG reporting and disclosure. Thank you so much, Dr. Tarek, for accepting my invitation. Before you start, I want to remind everyone, Dr. Tarek have 45 to 1 hour presenting his webinar, and after that, we have 45 minutes for question. You have two types to ask Dr. Tarek your question. You can raise your hand, or you can write or type your question in Q&A below the screen. Please, don't write your question in the chat because the chat keep rolling and I can't catch your question. Thank you so much for attending the webinar and enjoy the webinar. Thank you, Dr. Tarek, and the floor is yours. You can't hear me? Maybe you can take off the mic. Can you hear me now? Try, Doctor, again what I said to you, which is in mic, and then use test speaker and microphone. I can't hear you. Then after that, change the speaker. Maybe you can put it built-in output. You can't. Okay, take off the microphone. Okay, put it. Okay, put it again. Try again. Doctor, it's not about the mic. Sorry. You please, Doctor, sign out and sign in again. Dr. Tarek, sign out from Zoom and then sign in again. Let me call you. Sorry for the technical issue, guys. Give us 5 minutes and we'll back to you. Sorry for that.
تسمع فيه الآن؟
Yes. Now I can hear you.
أنا أوكي.
Okay. Thank you.
يلا خلينا. السلام عليكم. Thank you very much. Do you hear me now, Dr. Ahmed?
Yes. Perfectly, yes.
Fantastic.
Did you hear when I present you, Doctor? And
yes.
everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for ITAR group, and I'm sorry for this this technical problem because I'm using it at the university Teams, not the Zoom. But I don't know. It should be easy. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much, and thank you for attendance, all of you. Thank you very much for your attendance. And I would like to say I appreciate all the effort you have done, Dr. Ahmed, about that. I still remember when you were updating the flyer on Saturday, you sent me the last update at 2 o'clock in the morning. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for these volunteer efforts. Let's start. I think I should share the screen first with you. Let me share the screen.
The easiest way, Dr. Tariq, just open the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Then after that, share the screen and you will find the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
This is the easy.
I will do it. Yeah, here. Yeah. Clear now? Do you see it?
Yes. Perfect.
Good. The topic is related to the determinants of web corporate social responsibility disclosure of multinational companies towards the host countries and sites into specific contents where the context where uncertainty and political instability is there during the 8 or 10 last years. The outline is we're gonna go through the introduction and objectives and theoretical framework, and then the literature view. I will talk a little bit about the independent variable and dependent variable and the control variables, and then the sample and research method and results discussion and application and contribution and limitation. Let's start with the introduction. Many scholars talk about that the multinational company likely do not sustain the CSR performance for the host countries as they prioritize the business consideration ahead of local community. This is part of their view. This is the really pessimistic view. And others talk about the multinational CSR suggested that CSR-related performance depends on the relation with local stakeholders and their business culture. This is another view. The first author who has a long name, it's difficult to pronounce, and Wang, and 2019, and then Emerson in 2015. They talk about the multinational company CSR disclosure from this perspective. Generally, the extant literature lacks of analytical investigation to identify the probable influence on significance of their business in host country. I think none of the let's say papers so far talk about or try to investigate the direct relationship about the significance of the multinational company businesses in the host country and their performance and disclosure in CSR perspective. This paper tried to address this gap. All other studies are not based on that online, let's say, search on companies' websites. Instead, they try to collect data from annual report and or standalone report, but not full search about offline and online. This is quite important, especially in a crisis timing. And none of them has web-based longitudinal studies. So this paper again tried to address this gap. The research question is from the CSR perspective: do multinational companies respond to the political crisis of host country, specific host country? I mean, if so, why they responded and how they're going to respond? One of the common questions is the extent of generalizability of the finding. Libya, we all know, I'm talking about Libya context. Libya, we all know that it's a petroleum-based economy, has a petroleum-based economy. And secondly, the corruption, unfortunately, is widely known in ministry level and government level. And also the second thing that the third thing is that the society, let's say the civil society is quite limited in this country. So any other companies, specifically Arab countries, I think most similar to that, to Libyan context, and some African countries, maybe most African countries, especially that countries who has a petroleum-based economy, and some Latin countries such as Venezuela, maybe, and other countries. These potential finding of this paper can be generalized in all those countries. The theoretical framework. I prefer to use the legitimacy theory better than the other. I will let you know why. First of all, that there's an influence of management reconstruction and of CSR disclosure and practices in the Libyan context there was one of the very beginning popular application of the theory. This has been done by Campbell. Secondly, the significance of disclosing sufficient information about actual operation for major, this is quite important, major stakeholders legitimizes a firm's activity against public pressure. We will see in this paper, there's many stages happening quickly, very, very quickly, and it's significant transformation happening in terms of the scene of stakeholders. Before the revolution in 2011, and within the revolution, when the crisis took place in 2011, and then after the revolution, there is a significant changes, or let's say transformational, happening in the primary stakeholder for multinational companies. And the next point is the significance of firm stakeholders conflict. It's quite important. Sochman talked about that, and the role of focal institution. There is a sort of debate between the institutionalists and the Sochman and other scholars who are talking about the legitimacy apart from institutional theory. They have a sort of debate about the important role of the focal institution. Focal institution, that means there is one institution on the ground, on the context, have played the main role in terms of legitimization process. This is quite important. We will see how that works if the studied firms are multinational companies. The next one is the legitimate power, is the capability of issuing compliable rules and regulations. This is also quite important. This is also quite important because there's many scholars, our investigation has been done, interviews, especially interviews with multinational companies. They try to do a sort of pressure on the government after revolution, in order to change some regulations related to their work there, their operations there. So let's go to the literature review. Literature review, the motivation factor, first of all, it has been investigated by Adams and Hell in 1998. The motivation factor of influence the CSR agenda are varied and unstable. This is one of the let's say the studies has been research studies has been conducted with multinational companies, CSR of multinational companies. They find out that there is no way to know what's the motivation motivation related to the push the, or let's say motivate CSR multinational companies to disclose or to perform CSR from CSR perspective. The other one who was Fryness and Stevens in 2015, they talk about institutional equality. One of part of or important part of this paper is based on the investigate the relationship, inferred relationship between institutional equality of the host country and the disclosure of CSR, the CSR disclosure of multinational companies. This institutional equality of the state is theoretically considered as determinant of CSR activity. This is what he conducted, what he found, what they found. We will see in this paper is the same or not. Aziz and Jamali in 2016 state that the probable governmental pressure on the foreign companies are not that sufficient to increase the CSR disclosure, okay, after the revolution. This is due to the decline of government effectiveness. This is quite important and lie on the context I'm studying in. So they are not influential, the governmental pressure. We will see, so why they disclose CSR disclosure, CSR information. Through the CSR window, companies might deliberately attempt to influence the political decision government for their sake. How? This study found out that the CSR, some companies, some multinational companies use the CSR disclosure, CSR performance, in order to do a sort of pressure on the political decision government. This is sparked in my mind the idea that whether even in the crisis time, do we see, if we do a sort of research such as this paper, do we see a sort of pressure on the government, on the local government, in terms of political decision or not? The next one, the multinational companies overweigh the host country in terms of CSR disclosure reporting ahead of global issues. This is quite important. Multinational companies do not care regionally, and this study will confirm that, do not care about the global issue. They care about the local issue in the host country where their business is there, where they are operating much ahead of the global issues or crisis. The next point, in other words, that the poor and fragile institutionalization, whereby governmental effectiveness is an issue, especially after a crisis, and a lack of coercive pressure at the national level prevent multinational companies' global CSR agenda from fulfilling the local requirement. This is another issue. They say that because of the chaos on the ground, so multinational companies cannot develop the CSR performance in a way to fulfilling the local requirement. So after that, after all these presentation and many other points, I can't present all of them. I can introduce the hypothesis like that. Ceteris paribus, the institutional quality of host country, and statistically and statistically associated with the volume of CSR disclosure of multinational companies toward host country in a crisis time. In this paper, we are not collecting, I will show you later on, we are not collecting everything related to the CSR has been disclosed by multinational companies, everything. I am concerned only about that information are related directly to the host country, specific host country where the crisis took place. So those are the two variables, which is the independent and dependent variable. The independent variable is the institutional quality of host country over the time. And the dependent variable is the volume of CSR disclosure of multinational companies related only to specific country, which is Libya. So here is the table of let's say the variable I'm gonna use in order to understand or to determine the inferred relationship between these two variables. We talk about dependent, and the independent variable is related to the institutional quality of the host country. How did I get it? I got it from the condensing 6 different variables, which is the world governance indicator. The first one, this one, is related to the corruption. Let's say the corruption in the specific country. And the next one is related to the voice accountability. And here is political stability and government's effectiveness. And then the rule of regularity of quality and rule of law. All of them are independent variables. But unfortunately, when I use all of them, I found a sort of multicollinearity between in between them, you know. So the only way to use this, let's say this indicators of these variables is to make them condensed. How? By doing a sort of multiplication between all the 6 things and then get the 6th root of the results in order to get this variable, which is the WGI all. This is all that means related to this all 6 variables. This is the independent variable. The control variables are many. The first one is related to the globality of the disclosure company, which is the revenue of headquarters divided by the Libyan production, oil production, not in numbers, but in dollar, the same as the currency of the revenue of headquarters. I tried when I choose the control variables, I tried to make all of them has a sort of political pattern. For example, this one is related to 3 main parameters. I'm talking about globality. The first one is the revenue of the headquarters all over the world. Secondly, is the quantity of Libyan production as a state, all the state, multiplied by the price, the oil price. Oil price, this is 3. That means this is 3 parameters, a sort of 3 variables. The oil price is quite important here. Why? Because it has been mentioned by you recently, for example, by one of the prime minister of one of the government. There's 2 governments, of course, there, one on the eastern side, the other on the western side. One of the prime ministers said that whenever one of the parties, when I say 2 governments, that means sort of conflict between them. Sometimes one of the parties of the 2 governments, they might use the oil production as a sort of arm twisting for the other party in order to, I don't know, negotiate or do a sort of pressure and so on. So this is the only income of all Libyan people, so sort of problem, you know. In order to solve any conflict about such as this conflict can be sorted out how? Not at all by doing a sort of war of fighting and so on. Sometimes they might ask the Western countries, unfortunately, to push on this, to do a sort of pressure on this party or that party in order to lift the suspension or lift the closure there. So the prime minister recently said that sometimes even the Western countries do not care about that. Why? Because the price of the oil sometimes is very, very, very low. When they're very low, they wouldn't, let's say, do any kind of pressure. So I believe these 3 parameters of this globality variable, control variable, has a sort of political pattern behind that. The next control variable is the significance of Libyan business, multinational company business in the host country in 2010, not over the time, only 2010. Why I've chosen this? Because the crisis, the significant, or let's say the influence of the crisis can be considered by, I'm talking about from multinational companies' point of view. can be considered by the significance of their business in 2010. They are looking to, and they are patient, if I can say that, they are patient, they still perform, still CSR disclosure, I mean, and CSR performance, they're still doing that even after the revolution, after the crisis, and even they have no activities there. Sometimes there is announced force majeure. Force majeure, that means there is a sort of complete closure of all the activities of oil operation there because of protests, because of the civil war, many reasons. So they are looking to the, let's say, they are patient and they have received a promise from many governments that once a day, they're gonna return to their activity as it was in 2010, before the crisis. So that's why I believe that they are looking to their the significance of their business in 2010, rather than seeing any other consequences of the revolution after 2011. So I've chosen just 1 year, which is 2010, in order to see whether they disclosure based on that one or not. The second control variable, the third control variable is the world governance indicators of the home country. It's condensed too, because there is a multicollinearity between them. Why I've chosen this control as a control variable? Because I believe, I thought they might have a sort of influence in terms of exporting or importing the ethical concepts, the, let's say, a sort of, if I don't know whether I will realize that these multinational companies are working as ambassadors of their countries or not. This is what I'm looking for. So let's see in the statistical analysis whether the companies who are coming from developed countries, whether they're going to disclose more or not. Is there any associativity between them or not? The next one is this is quite important. The next one is the number of days of the date recognized, to the date of recognition of Libyan National Transitional Council. This is the first oppositional body after revolution by government of home country since it has been established on 27th of February until the date of recognition. After establishing this body, which is the NTC, called Libyan NTC, National Transitional Council, the country started to recognize them as the only and exclusive representative of Libyans instead of the former regime. So I need to see whether there is a sort of pressure by multinational companies on their government in terms of recognizing these oppositional body or not, from CSR perspective, of course. So all this, this is all the variables I have. So this is the equation at the bottom of the screen. As I told you, the dependent variable and the independent variable, and then the controllers. There is I will use this equation in 7 different models. These are the models I have. I'm going to use in the statistical analysis. The first model is related to the type of CSR disclosure. I divided it in 2 models. The first title, type of this, I divided it in 2 models. The first one is social issue, and the second one is risk management disclosure. Type of this, 2 models. And the next one is responsivity to the crisis. This is the title. This title, I divided it in 2 different models, third and the fourth. The first one, instant disclosure, which is online. Any disclosure has been posted in HTML files. And the second one is offline disclosure, with the calendrical disclosure, CSR disclosure. Offline, that means the disclosure found in annual reports, standalone reports, and so on. So 2 different type of disclosure in terms of responsivity to the crisis. Of course, the online is instant disclosure and the offline it's not. The fifth model is the total CSR. And all of these 5 models reflect the disclosure on all the time span from 2008 until 2015. except these two models. The sixth one, which is the pre-crisis, which is the all disclosure, regardless of social or risk management, regardless of posted in online or offline, but in pre-crisis only, which is from 2008 until 2011. And the last model is post-crisis disclosure, CSR disclosure, from 2012 to 2015. Data sample, multinational companies all operating in Libyan oil sector only. I'm talking about the headquarters, the disclosure in headquarters, not subsidiaries, headquarters only. And the next thing is we have accessed 35 foreign companies, the website of 35 foreign companies. They are from 18 different nationalities. Okay. So we have accessed 6,000 web pages, annual reports, and standalone reports during this period. After accessing all of them, we found out that I found out that there is 26 firms only disclosed CSR information related to host country only, and they are from 16 different nationalities. Okay. So the time span is, as I said, 2008, 2015. Data collection have been done in March 2020, and the number of observation is 265. This is the descriptive summary about the variables, different variables from 2008 to 2015. The dependent variable, the first one, dependent variable, it's the volume of CSR disclosure in words. Minimum, you could see the minimum and maximum and median and so on. The only variation a little bit concerned here and that one, which is 1.39, this is a standard deviation, 1.393, and the other one is 0.181. Compared to the median and the mean, it's quite high. All the others are normally. By the way, after examining let's say the distribution, the normal distribution of the dependent variable, I found out that there is it's not normally distributed. So I decided to do a transformation for all dependent variable only, dependent variable instead, by using the natural logarithm in order to get it normally distribution. Okay. Research method, I've done the multi-regression test, and then after that I've done robustness tests, which is non-linear regression, two-stage least square analysis, and propensity score matching. The descriptive finding, the first one. Here's the descriptive finding. The first one is the matrix of volume of CSR disclosure, 6 different models only, not 7. All of them are normal except those you can see here. From the risk management, disclosure about risk management, all of them thousands of words, by the way. It was 5,500 words, and after revolution became 7,400 words. And also, this is significant increase, nearly a double, which is the online. Before revolution was, pre-crisis were 3,100 roughly, and became after revolution 6,800, which is more than the double. This is quite interesting finding. And the what's more, and the offline decline after the post-crisis decline, 4 years, by the way, post-crisis 4 years, pre-crisis 4 years, and decline in the offline, I think, in favor of online disclosure. Let's have a look at the results of statistical regression. You can see here the 7 models. First significant result that the institutional quality of the host country does not associate that strong, with the volume of disclosure. The only model confirmed that is the online, when the company or the companies who posted or who disclosed it as online disclosure, which is the instant one, the only one. All the others is not. All the others not. There's no strong associativity. By the way, even this is significant, but After I've done the robustness tests, which is 3 robustness tests excluded. This one, this related to the total disclosure, which is minus 0.025, it's not that significant. Also, the coefficient related to the risk management, it's not that much, because we haven't got the similar results the same as the multi-regression test. So it has been excluded. So all the coefficient has been marked like that, like correct sign. That means it's really significant. All of them here, all of them. This is the first significant results. The second one, there is an associativity, or there is sort of significant correlation between the globality, because once I realized that there is no strong associativity between, or correlation, significant correlation between the institutional quality of host country and the volume of disclosure of multinational companies toward this country, that means, so what's the motivation? So I should know the motivation. I think the first motivation, but not the most significant, the first motivation is the globality. The more the company, the more globality of the company, the higher or the greater volume of disclosure they act. And the third, let's say, the third significant result is the significance of their business in 2010. This is the quite interesting finding. This, you could see that most of models provided a significant associativity of this factor control variable toward the dependent variable. That means it's quite important. The more the significance of their business in 2010, the higher or the greater the volume of disclosure. This is quite interesting. In 2010, remember, not all the years. I've got just chosen 2010. What's more? And then the next one is the institutional quality of home country. It's not significant at all. You can see here, it's not significant. Even this one has been excluded in the social issues, has been excluded in, let's say, in the robustness tests, because it's not, haven't got similar results. And also here, so there's no relationship between the institutional quality of the home countries and the volume of disclosure, which means they don't care. They are working independently, regardless the company they came from, which country, doesn't matter. Developing country, doesn't matter. But the most significant and interesting, I'm really astonished by this finding, the next one, which is the number of days that the government of home country recognized the NTC related or associated negatively, significant negatively with the volume of disclosure, especially in the online disclosure. This is quite, really quite interesting. What does it mean? That means the more the countries or the companies who disclose, the most disclosing companies, multinational companies, they have a highly probability that their government recognized the first oppositional body of the Libyans more than the other, sooner, very soon. So the countries who, let's say, recognized the NTC a week after the establishing this oppositional body, immediately this company are most disclosure of CSR disclosure related to the host country more than the others. This is quite interesting, more than the others. I don't know. This is astonishing. I will provide you with sort of details and sort of interpretation about this finding. What's more? Nothing can be said more than that. You could see the adjusted R-square are quite high here. All of them are accepted level. And let's go to the next one, discussion. The discussion, of course, according to this, one point I missed, I forgot to say it. According to this results, I can say that let's say the hypothesis has been refused, rejected. Why? Because there is no associativity between the institutional quality of the host country during the crisis time and the volume of CSR disclosure of multinational companies toward this country. Discussion. First title is The Crisis Emerged New Primary Stakeholder. How? First one, that within the crisis, I realized that the company started focus on the risk management disclosure more than the social disclosure. Why? Because there is a sort of worries about the employees up there, working up there, their employees working up there, and the government, their government, because most of them are foreign employees, foreign experts. So they should do something very quickly. And they start disclose on risk management more than social issues. This is the first one. And then the next point, that the disclosure is likely target the stakeholders who are seeking a complete truth about the company's activities to avoid the conflict with the disclosures, namely managers. When that was after the crisis. After the crisis, they became disclosing more. I said, as I told you, with risk management, I believe that they are concerned, try to avoid the conflict between the shareholders and managers. This conflict try to be avoided. This is a sort of legitimacy perspective. The next point is maintaining moral legitimacy was motivated behind the multinational companies' behavior for both employees and their governments. This is quite important. As I told you, during the crisis, the employees and their governments was I think, the most important and primary stakeholders. And that's why they carried on disclosing about risk management after when the crisis took place. Okay. The next point is the next point is after the crisis, the expert is they are unwilling to resume their job at all. This could be a reason why multinational companies strive to return by raising the importance of their CSR disclosure website after revolution. Could be the reason, rather than solely strengthening the political relationship with regime in power. I mean, after the revolution, because as simple as that, most of the government took place or not elected, actually assigned. Most of the government are very, very ineffective, so they can't lie on the, let's say, the role of this government in terms of protecting their activities up there. So instead, they carried on working or disclosing many CSR information from different types, social or risk management. The next title is related to the discussion is the globality. I don't know whether I'm on time or not. Okay. The next one is the little bit more. The globality of the disclosing company, which is related to this variable. The globality can be addressed in this paper by the degree of visibility of the companies, serves to identify the disclosing multinational company for risk management domain only, more than the social domain. This finding is consistent with the results of many other studies, completely in line with those studies. The next one is the foreign companies, underneath the same title, which is the globality. The foreign companies that are not global visibility, which is has low, let's say, the factor of RHQ over the Libyan oil production, tend to disclose more about social issue more than risk management, with the companies who are not that much visible. So the most visible companies are disclosing more on risk management. This is what I found. The finding revealed that the headquarters of this category of oil companies are based in countries with relatively low level of institutional quality. This is what I found, that the countries who are disclosing more related to the disclosure more than the other, they are related low level of institutional quality. or in other words, closer to the host country, of course, because the host country has the lowest of one. I have, as I told you, I have 16 different nationalities, and the 17 ones is the host country, which is Libyan. I think the lowest one is the Libya itself. So none of them is below the Libyan in terms of institution quality. So what I found that the closer institution equality of the company, headquarter of the company, is the greater disclosure. This finding is to some degree consistent with Campbell 2012, Campbell et al. Findings, in that the longer cultural distance, actually not cultural, I'm sorry, I do apologize for that. It's not cultural distance, it's administrative distance between the home country and host country, the lower volume of CSR disclosure of multinational companies for their businesses in host country. The most interesting point that Campbell is talking about USA while I'm talking about Libyan. Campbell talk about different. There is many differences between this study and the Campbell study in 2012, but still there's a sort of consistency between the finding. Let me go to the next title about the discussion, which is the global crisis is not as important as the crisis host country. I said that, mentioned that before. How did I get that? For example, in British Petroleum, we all know that they have got an oil spill, big environmental disaster in 2010. And in that time, they were operating in the offshore, let's say offshore oil fields in Libya. So the Mediterranean countries within that crisis, they have a sort of worries. They try to ask this British Petroleum in order to see, let's say, in order to see whether they can confirm that their operation, even in the Mediterranean, in front of the coast of Libyan coasters, they have a sort of good and strict environmental measures. They applied it or not? They're a sort of worry. I know, I have evidence. I interviewed one of the managers in oil company, there, Libyan oil company. They say that they have received many letters about that. But surprisingly, the British Petroleum, they don't care about that. They did not, let's say, disclose anything in the headquarters about their operation in Libya at all. That's amazing. The one explanation about that is the set. I think this is the best one. This, in terms of from legitimacy perspective, they say that the ignorance response could be explained as avoiding the disclosure of bad information or strategy of the crisis marginalization by avoiding being an exaggerative anti-pollution publisher. So stop talking about the crisis in order to marginalize the pressure or the let's say the claims against you. The next one, I'll try to go quickly to the other points. The next one is the finding of this paper shows that the multinational companies I thought Dr. Ahmed sent me a message, shows that the multinational companies in general responded to the Arab Spring in Libya by publishing information related to the risk management on online vehicles. What does it mean? That they tried to, or they tend to publish risk management on online, not offline, let's say, files, which means not in an annual report, not in the, let's say, standalone report related to sustainability, related to CSR. They try to post sort of short posts usually, and on HTML files, which is very quickly and an instant. Usually, it's a response of specific events on the ground. The next, this finding leads us to, there is additional evidence related to this finding, which is that the institutional quality of the host country here is negatively associated with the volume of CSR disclosure as only HTML. In only HTML. I showed you that none of the statistical regression test, none of the models agreed or confirmed that there is associativity between the institutional quality of host country and the volume of disclosure, except the HTML, which is the online. This is additional evidence that the risk management is, after revolution, they tend to disclose risk management on online vehicles, online files, I mean. That means also the multinational companies do not introduce strategic long-term CSR disclosure, because if they try to post just short posts here and there without, let's say, deserving a sort of section in the annual report or section in the standalone report, that means there is a lack of introducing strategic online CSR performance and disclosure, I think. The next one is a global crisis is not important. It's not important. No, sorry. The next point in the same title is the prioritizing country-centric CSR topic ahead of global issues, as you see in the Rodriguez 2006, may be an appropriate interpretation of the disassociation between the institutional quality of home country according to this finding. So this is one of the interpretation why there isn't a sort of associativity between these two variables. The next one is the multinational companies are likely not to be ambassadors of their home country. How did I get that? I get that from this finding. I showed you this finding before, which is there is no associate. The institutional quality of home country does not associate with the volume of CSR disclosure of multinational companies toward the host country. What does that mean? I can say that the multinational companies have their own approach and engage with the host country regardless of they come from where they come from. They don't care about that. Sometimes developing countries, sometimes the company comes from developing country might disclose more, might perform more than the others who are from developed countries. Let's say, a study, I think in the line with the finding of this this paper study findings, which is related to the White in 2019, they said that the colonial ties, they talk about the colonial ties. They have mentioned that the colonial ties between the two countries, which is, for example, from developing country, the other one from developing countries, they might affect their, they do not affect their decision in terms of entry mode. They will not invest in the country just because there is a sort of strong colonial ties between that country and the country where the headquarters is based. They don't care about that. Their decision is completely different from that. So it's sort of in line with the influence of, yes.
You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
3 minutes, okay. So let's go through quickly the influence of disclosure multinational companies on Arab Spring. As I told you, this is quite interesting finding. There is a sort of significant negative association or correlation between this and the volume of disclosure. That means, let's go to the last point. The crisis reveals that either the dominance of multinational companies is there on the government, I think somehow is there, on the political decision, or the importance of global economic players, which is those countries are working there, that headquarters up there, to protect their businesses all over the world. It's not a sort of Libyan case, but I think their international interference come up or base it on the global economic players. The next one is hope to resume business in crisis. It's related to the variable of the significant in 2010. So this is quite interesting finding as well. The next one is the theoretical implication. I think two variables has been added to the CSR theory. The first one is the historical achievement of firms on their behavior during the crisis. In other words, the losses of multinational companies due to the inevitable conditions do not affect their behavior. And the second one is the influence of multinational companies on political decision of government. Let's move on to the economic implications. The economic implication is the potential that they should consider. The NOC, especially the focal institution there, they should consider not only the big or large, gigantic multinational companies in terms of CSR performance, but also the other companies, because the significance of their business is important, not how large are they. The contribution, this paper examines the inferred relationship between the country-centric CSR disclosure and multinational companies. And this paper also contributes to the literature by providing interpretation about this relationship. The limitation is we should care about the influence of CSR disclosure on the host countries, not just one, many. The other one is the pre-crisis output of multinational businesses motivate their CSR-related performance. These 2 points has to be more investigated, I think, because it's not that enough. I think we can many studies can be based on those 2 points. And the other limitation is enlarging the sample. I think this is quite important. This is all about the paper. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for presenting too long. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tariq, for interesting paper, actually, and good to know paper about Libya as well, and information that most of the literature that, you know, hide these,
Yes.
you know, interesting topic. I read many papers about CSR and, you know, CSG, but your paper is, you know, I like it because you focus on international companies. Thank you so much for the interesting and useful presentation, and we'll open the floor for anyone have any question. Please, you can raise your hand to ask Dr. Tariq, or you can type your question in Q&A. Allow me, Dr. Tariq, to start asking you. I have just one question and one or two recommendations.
This is what I'm coming for.
Yeah, actually, I know Dr. Tariq from conferences that he presents many of papers in BAFA. I saw him in BAFA and other conferences. So, Dr. Tariq, I didn't see, or maybe I didn't notice how did you solve the problem of indigeneity and causality?
The problem of indigeneity and causality.
Did you solve it by any of the? You know...
Yes. I solved it by doing robustness tests. I mentioned it in my presentation. Doesn't need to return back. I mentioned that I've done two-stage linear regression. This one, I mentioned that. These 2 stages, we all know. Sorry. Yes. The 2-stage least squared analysis, this solved that there is no indigeneity between the internal by doing, first of all, the correlation between the residuals and the control variable, and then doing the let's say the results of that let's say associativity or the regression by doing another regression using the independent variable with including the residuals in order to know whether there is a significant relationship or not. What I found that there is no significant indigeneity between control variables.
Right. Also, interesting that you use 7 models to confirm your result. That's brilliant. However, I realized the number of companies of observation is diverse from each models. If you can see here in N, last one, the first model 137, the other one 128, 100, 165, 265, So what's the why the numbers of the company is changed?
Not changed. No, not
it's
changed.
Supposed to be all of them same.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Not to change, to be honest, because there is 2 types of doing or establishing or introducing the models. The first one is by using the dummy variables. Instead of using, for example, the social issue and risk management, I can do it as a dummy variable at the bottom there, 1, 0. That's it. Okay, and also I can do the dummy variable for the responsibility to crisis, online and offline, 1 and 0. And at the same thing for the pre-crisis and post-crisis. But I prefer to do this like that. Why? Because this give me a wide view in terms of interpretation by determining any internal relationship between any of the models, these models, and a specific other control variable. Any control variable. For example, if I do the dummy variable, for example, as I said to you, you will see that all the number of observations the same, of course. All the number of observations the same, but depends on the number of models, of course. Sometimes one model, two models, three models, different way, but not to categorizing the CSR disclosure itself as I did now. Okay. So in this case, I will not have an idea whether the significance of, for example, the significance of their business in Libya, which one is important? Is it related to the social issues or risk management issues? I can't get that, and why the significance of Libyan business of those countries are not that associated with the CSR disclosure in terms of offline here, as you see. In terms of offline, it doesn't matter. So it's not working. It's not, does not play the main role in generating or motivating the companies to disclose. So that's why the number of observations are different, because what I've done is a sort of categorizing the data more than modeling.
I totally understand you, Dr. Tagh, but I am not econometrics person. But this is this is my first time actually, so that big difference between each model. I think just to make sure, if you if any of the audience know have an idea, please can help us on this, or maybe you can also ask any of econometrics. Maybe they can give you an idea.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and also, Doctor. The last one, just a recommendation, make the data up to date. Like your data is 2016, I think, or 2015, and mostly I don't know. That's happened to me. I don't know if any of editor. If you submit this paper to any of journals, they will write why this paper is just 2016.
Let me answer this question, please. It's a good question. To be the fact that this paper is try to investigate whether there is a relationship between the multinational companies' disclosure toward the host country and the institutional quality. I meant that I need to see the change, if there is a significant change in their volume, qualitatively and quantitatively, in terms of the crisis. So the crisis took place in 2011. It will not be changed. We cannot talk about the crisis, Libyan crisis, or Arab Spring crisis, political crisis, unless you talk about this time span from 2008, 2015, 14, and so on. So it is related to the specific crisis. This crisis happened in 2011, so I should talk about this time span. I can't talk about, for example, 2019 or 18.
And have you used dummy for years, Doctor?
Dummy what?
For years. For as you know, you used in 2008, and you know the financial crisis. It's in 2008 and 2009, and you know, so my question, did
yes,
dummy?
yes, good point. Yes, good point. No, to be honest, I didn't use it, but good point. You believe that their disclosure might affect by the financial crisis too?
Of course.
Yes.
It's in actually your data in 2008, so it's in the middle of the crisis.
Exactly. I didn't realize that, to be honest. Okay. Thanks for this point.
Most welcome. I have a question from Dr. Abdul Latif. Dr. Abdul Latif. Yes.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, hello, Dr. Abdul Latif.
Hello, Mr. Tarek. How are you? Thank you very much for your presentation. I
Thank you
was
very much.
following you. I was just remind my friend who is ask you a question about your database to
Okay.
updating. So I see the database is good choosing this date because
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
economic and social is stable, and it's good to make evaluation and study our reference with stagnant situation to make a good representation and to get a good vision about the situation. But let me, Mr. Tarek, if you allow me, of course. So
Yes, yes.
there is some point. It's very important.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not following you from the beginning of this webinar. So I just coming in 10 minutes, and
Yeah,
I don't know exactly if you let me to ask this question. I
yeah.
was I was studying the last 2 years. I was working in Libya before with the medical company. I was working in travel agency company with many petroleum company in OC, Viva, Lirco, Akakos, and many other company. So there
Fantastic.
is one point. There is one point I want to take step in it, and I try to organize. There is no there is no office between Libya and another country. That's common office that relate the investor, relate the relationship, relate the skills, relate the way of working, relate everything together to make a good change, and maybe it can work better and push this economy to grow up fast and in the good way.
Okay, and you mean there's no point from um, if I understood you, you
Yeah.
believe that there is no point from conducting or finding the relationship between the performance of these companies and toward Libya due to the lack of let's say institutional communication between this country and those companies. Is that right?
No, I'm just talking about this company and another company in another world. So let's make a common office in marketing. That's a study only marketing, and another
Yeah.
office in finance, and that's a study only finance way. And in this case, when we treat many cases and many issues with different country in similar with similar company and maybe different company in some issue, may we find something can guide us to find a fast solution or defined to be an issue.
Hmm. Yeah, but that was a little bit far. Or you believe I can use it as a control variables or what? Because in that
That's
what you said is a little bit far from the CSR. I don't know. I'm not sure whether I understand you or not, to be honest.
okay. Okay, it's no problem. Let me please, Mr. Tarek, if you allow me to get this document after your meeting and your mail address, may I text you later?
Okay, no problem. Yeah,
Thank you
I'm
so
happy with
much. I
that.
appreciate that. Thank
Welcome.
you.
You are more than welcome.
Thank you. With
Welcome,
pleasure.
welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you so much.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Also, there is a question, Doctor, from Jihan, asked about your data. So how you found your data?
Oh, yeah, good question. I found it from their websites, from the company's websites, not the subsidiaries headquarters. How did I got for example, the data? I collected data in 2020, while the data is related to 2008, for example. And not only from the annual report, but also from websites, of course, as I told you. So the annual
From
report is
manually.
solved. Yeah, manually, of
Manually,
course.
it's not about.
Manually, yes, 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 ma'am. Not from the Bloomberg or something like that.
Yeah.
Why? Because it should be related to the specific country, not
Yes.
only, this is what I'm looking for, which is Libya. So I used archive.org. There is a website called archive.org, quite useful. They can give you the copy, for example, of any website or how it was before 10 years ago. 10 years ago, how it was.
What's the website? Sorry, what is it, Doctor?
Archive.org. Archive.org. Very, very useful.
Thank you. Also, there is just a minute. There is a question from Dr. Nisreen.
Yes.
Swisi. She asked, thank you a lot, Dr. Tariq, for your presentation. My question is related to how did you measure the degree of CSR disclosure?
I measured it by the number of words. Yeah.
Okay.
Number of words. So whenever I found any meaningful CSR disclosure, I copied it, I got it, and then I counted the number of words, and then this is the first record, and then the second record, third, and so on.
All right. Any other question for Dr. Tariq? Please, Doctor, they ask if you don't mind, you can write in the chat the name of the website, which is ORCAD, and
yeah, I will. Yeah, here. Archive.org. Archive.org, yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Also, there is a question from Dr. Mohammed Al-Faraj. He asked about why did you use legitimacy theory, not stakeholder theory?
I think we all know that there is sort of, let's say, intersection between legitimacy theory, institutional theory, and stakeholder theory. Many of them, three of them have a sort of similarity between them. But I prefer the legitimacy theory because what I found that there is the legitimacy theory is related to legitimizing the activities of the companies. What I found that there is a very strong threats against these companies after the revolution, and sometimes they all stop working, completely stop working, just because of protests, just because of fighting, civil war. So I believe that the most important thing is the legitimation process. This is the first thing. Secondly, the conflict up there is a combination of many legitimacies. That's it. There is a party who has a revolutionary legitimacy, and they try to fight or use it in order to, let's say, survive. And there is electoral legitimacy from the people who have been elected. So there is a sort of clash of legitimacy there. What I need to know how the multinational company can manage to let's say, to maintain or increase or repair their legitimacy in terms of working there. Sometimes it's very difficult, but I admit that the stakeholder theory as well can be used too. Yes, can be used.
Thank you, Doctor. Also, Jihan replied back that when you said regarding the CSR measurement that you use the ORCAD software. So the question, you used the number of words. So what's the software that you used to count the number?
SPSS for the regression. SPSS.
SPSS. Okay.
SPSS.
Dr. Najib, I think you try to ask a question. Please, just if you want to ask a question, just click raise hand just one time. When you click it 2 times, yeah, now okay. Go ahead, Dr. Najib.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Hello, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Tariq's nice presentation, and
thank you.
I interested with Dr. Ahmed activities. I follow up.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Okay, so I am Yeah, I am from Libya anyway, and they have published many papers about, CSR disclosures and,
Abd
about
Majid who? Excuse me, Abd Majid who?
Najib Masood.
Masood. Okay.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
I,
Yeah.
okay, so, and I have, I created the model is for CSR.
Yeah.
Like, the Carl, I did Carl models. Anyway, so this is very interesting, but I want to understand something for the measurements of the variables, like, the political and the culture. And, we know this is for the measurements of the variable and CSR disclosure, how to measure. Okay, because there's a equation or there's formula. There's for the index, why you don't use the index more, they get more availability of the, for the models, they give the strong, the result related with the regression when use, the CSR disclosure index. And so this is one part for, variables. And another, my suggesting for the controlling, there's no, almost companies, like, when for multinational company or something, and with the local companies, when they're comparing or when you do subsidiaries or something for parents and subsidiaries companies. So use the firm size, firm size.
Oh, okay.
This is important, because we know the size of the companies, because, the Libya is, how is it? I know the situations, before and after, but how is the size between both companies to compare or to find the, the outcome for multinational companies? Because there is, we can use the hedge for the exchange rate or something for other ways, for the risks to find or to control the risk. So in my continues, there's, the size and other leverage, because you use the honors, the leverage to measures at least the risks, okay, how the, for the companies. And others, like use AOR, like for the profitabilities to measure the profitability.
As a control variable, you mean?
Yes, this is, and I didn't, this is for like a developed country is DOMI, because the DOMI is a more, void a little bit about the multicolority of, regression.
Yeah.
But, this is important variable, I guess.
Yeah, it's low. It's low. Less than 3 point something. It's low.
Yeah, but it should be mentioned, for, develop your, and then another things for these papers for the sustainable futures. I think the quantitative and the qualitative, this is the most important. When the country is missing for, like in the Libyan situation now, we can use almost, we can say we can use the quantity or the quantity. If you mix it between quantity and the qualitative approach, that's will be very interested, I think,
Very
this
interested,
is
but in the paper, it's quite difficult, as you fully
no,
aware.
no, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. So
really?
Yes, I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you can do it. Is that's how, because we are in developing countries, and developing countries, they need something supporting, in two models. That's you have to, you have to like major two, like engage two models, and that's quite interesting. That is on my side, and almost very interested anyway. And thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for all your notes. Thank you. Let me go through your points. The last one is talks about the methodology. You said that about the CSR index better than the disclosure. Usually, if I use the CSR index, usually I have to do a sort of dimensions, many dimensions, not just one, not just two, because I'm using just social issue and risk management. I should use many dimensions. This is the first thing. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's of course good, but I don't know how I could get more accurate. I didn't do that. How can I increase or heighten the accuracy of the finding just because of using the CSR index? I'm not sure about that exactly, but I agree with you about the size of the company, leverage, the AOR.
You have. So, sorry for interrupt, Dr. Taq. You already have the details. You said you collect your data manually, so already the data it's there. So you can find the number of the board members, for example, the board size and this stuff, the information.
Yes. I agree with you. Yes,
found
this
the
is
tough one, so the easy one.
yes.
You will find.
I agree with you that I tried to do the sort of controls. For example, let's say the revenue of the headquarter. I tried to mention it, but I agree with you that there is some other variables controllers can be added. Yes, exactly. And the last one is the methodology. You talk about the methodology. We can use the both. I think in terms of publishing, it's quite difficult. Why? Because not that much journals can accept the mixed method, because the journals have their interest readings, of course. They are looking for their audience. Some audience believe in qualitative and they don't believe at all in the qualitative. Some others vice versa. So you should look for the journal who accept two at the same time, which is, you did that, which is quite challenging, I believe. Yeah. I don't know whether Dr. Ahmed agree with me or not.
It's as you said, it's depend to the journal and the scope of the journal.
Yes.
The editor at itself, everyone has his opinion.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Najib, for your comments and everything. Thank you so much. We have Dr. Cooper Khan from American University and Middle East in Kuwait.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum assalam.
Doctor, I have two questions. And the first one is not actually a question, because it is something that I don't like in the whole global news and literature. Calling these times as the Arab Spring. Yani, I am not Arab, by the way. I am Turkish, but considering the number of people die and got injured, calling it spring is not something catching with the culture that we have. And this is my general view about calling that period of time in the North African countries as spring, because, lots of people died and lots of people got injured. This is my political point on the issue.
Mm-hmm.
For my study-based question is, for example, as you use the qualitative data and you use the annual reports, you read them one by one, and also to make things easier, for example, you can use a software like Envivo or like Atlas TI. It will make things easier for you. And if you ask my opinion, my humble opinion will be, I think these CSR issues, they are more related with the corporate governance of the companies. And instead of the financial power, because we can never say oil companies, they don't have the financial strength. But instead, I think the independent board members, the number of committees in the company, if they have any corporate social responsibility committee in the company, or how it is established. I think these questions, by the way, if I am talking fast or if there are any cuts in my voice, please tell me.
Yeah.
And I think these type of qualitative criteria in a company, it will affect more related with the CSR applications, their reporting and so on.
Even the governments, you mean? Government attributes, you mean? Governance.
And even the government pushes that, because there is a benchmark that the companies will follow, but what is the upper level, what they will do as the extra mile is completely depending on their corporate governance. And yes, the government or the legal authority can say we want these information on the annual report, but the complexity of the sentences, the details of the presentation, or how they are making all these efforts, I don't think it can be forced. It can be done by the soul of the company with the internal system of the company. And we can push everything from outside, but if the companies are not following it, it is because of the management they have.
Yeah, that's why, because of the yeah, I know, I got your point. You mean that this is the will of the management themselves, not the, yeah. Anyway, this website, the websites I collected the data from, is managed by the management of those, of the headquarters. Okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
But in the test,
and if
yes, please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, carry on.
And I completely agree. I did my PhD like in all these collections of data. They are very hard. I completely agree. And I cannot even criticize you. Why didn't you collect after 2015? Because you have to read the annual reports one by one.
Not only this,
Readability is a problem. OCR is a problem.
After
And if I were
2015
you,
is, yeah.
I would add a variable. It could be a dummy variable. If the PDF document or if the annual report is searchable or not. Because if it is searchable, it means the top management, by the way, there are some papers related with that. And if it is searchable, it means the top management is supporting to be read. But if it is not readable, because when you do Control F and you cannot find anything as a word, it means the top management doesn't want you to read that annual report.
No, all annual reports are available, all of them. But I'm not focusing on annual report also only, but also the other website, all the website. I've checked all the website. Yes.
Well, I think it's a very hard work, and I want to congratulate you on this because
yeah, it's hard work.
I can understand your feelings.
Yeah, because the idea of this paper came up in my mind after I realized that many studies related to the CSR in Libya believe that the multinational companies are a part of private sector in Libya, as long as they are working in Libya, so they are a part of private sector. I tried by this research study, to correct this misconception. This is not right. Multinational company is not a part of private sector in Libya. Private sector in Libya, it's related to the national company only. But the disclosure about the multinational companies is different, completely different. And the motivation is completely different. Yeah. What do you like to say, Dr. Ahmed?
Yeah, I just want to confirm that as Dr. Kuperk said, and I totally understood most of Arab countries, Turkish, it's hard to collect the data. So
yes.
I totally understand. You can't, just focus on the annual review. If there is any website that they can help you to have some data, that's good. I know some also in Kuwait, in GCC countries, the data is so tough to find it. The information, not all the companies put all the data of the years, all of them. So some of them, they just put maybe 2 years, for example, 2019, 18, that's it. Some of them, they just stopped, the disclosure in GCC, it's not that, that good. So I totally understand. And also,
I can tell you good news that if you use archive.org, you can get anything you like. Even old, long time ago, you can get it. So.
Thank you, Dr. Gokpek. Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Corbett. Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Also, there is I think it's a related question. Nisreen Susi asked, thank you, Dr. Tariq and Dr. Ahmed. Just another question. Why do you use just Libya multinationality headquarters in Libya and not subsidiaries?
Yeah. The subsidiaries, there is two main issues about the subsidiaries. First of all, I will found myself that I should, let's say, divided the paper or even the analysis into two parts. First, related to subsidiaries, second, headquarters. First, this is the first point. Secondly, the subsidiaries has no that much activity after revolution. So I don't know whether I can get a good response, sufficient response, a response from their websites about in CSR perspective, of course, after revolution, because as you're fully aware that most of the employees has been evacuated, and they shrank their activities, I mean administrative activities, to minimum. This is the first thing. Secondly, I was looking to the point that whether the multinational companies there is a sort of, let's say, pressure, sort of influence on the political decision of their governments. So I need to know whether it's right or not. So the only way to get that is to get the data from the multinational companies, from the multinational company, the headquarter website, sorry, from the headquarter, not subsidiaries. This is the best thing, by the way, not all the multinational companies, not all the subsidiaries have a website, not all of them.
Last question with Abir El-Sulami ask, could you please tell us what are the hot topics in accounting? She's a PhD student, and I think there is a PhD student here. They want to know what's the hot topic in accounting.
Yeah, it depends on the country you like to study in. If you like to for the UK, let me talk about the UK. I think in accounting there is two major topics. This is the tough. It's quite popular: governance, corporate governance, and CSR. This is as far as I know.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Dr. Tariq, I know it was a long discussion, and I hope that it will help you to improve the paper. And it won't happen. It won't happen only just because your paper is interesting, and and this is the purpose, as you said from the beginning, the purpose of the webinar, to improve and know how to develop your paper. Thank you so much for accepting and also presenting the paper. There is one question, and then you can say your last words from Fayoune, Dr. Fayoune.
Yes.
Amir. Yes. Doctor, if you don't mind, unmute your mic so we can hear you.
Yes.
Hello there.
Yes.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Met you and Dr. Tariq. It's nice to catch up with the 15 minutes late of this interesting subject, the CSR.
Thank you very much.
In our developing countries like Kuwait and other countries, we lack of these things. And
yes, I agree.
Especially the CSR is a corporate social responsibility. It's a type of international private business self-regulation that aims to contribute to society, the goals of these countries. There is no question. Only I want just to thank you for this valuable information.
You're welcome.
Very much for enlightening the path for us to know the archiving.org. I use this, really rich of everything, and it can help everybody searching for the master or doctorate, postdoctorate, or anybody else in the field. Thank you for this interesting evening. Thank you, Ahmed, for giving us the opportunity to know these people and all the researchers and all the world through this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you Dr. Fatin Abu Amir?
Yes, you mentioned my name something wrong. I'm the next,
Okay.
inshallah. And
Maybe you put your name wrongly, so that's why.
maybe. Anyway, Dr. Tariq, you are
Thank you very much. You are welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and my lecture will be after you, and you are
The next
you're
one.
most welcome
Okay.
to.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Yeah,
I will
inshallah.
announce it, Dr. Fatin, inshallah, after Dr. Tariq said his last word, and then I will announce it, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Cheers. Dr. Tariq, if you have any last word.
All what I need to say, thank you very much for attendance. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, for your efforts. To be honest, it's really, really great efforts you are doing. And I will leave my email here in the group. If anyone like to communicate with me in terms of any question related to CSR, potential work in future, any question, we are helping each other. This is life, you know. And thank you for the many points I've got from the audience about that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And it's a privilege for me to be as a president today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tariq. Really, it was interesting webinar. If you want anyone miss Dr. Tariq webinar, or he need more information, this webinar is recorded and it's live actually in YouTube. So I put all the accounts, the ITAR account. You can always join the YouTube channel and you can watch the webinar again, and if you miss any information. Thank you so much, Dr. Tariq. Our next webinar will be with Dr. Fatin Abu Amir from Kuwait University, with the title of Promoting Research Knowledge Exchange by Exploring the Role of Decision Making as Different Knowledge Production. Her webinar is already announced in all my accounts. You can register, and inshallah next I think Thursday it will be her webinar, and most welcome everyone to join this webinar. Again and again, thank you so much from all over the world, doctors and PhD students who join us today in this interesting webinar, and also extend my thanks to Dr. Tariq Al-Muntasir for accepting my invitation and be one of our in ITAR family, and hope this webinar, it won't be the last, it will be the first of a serial of other webinars, or maybe workshop for PhD students as well. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Salam.